Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. All right, we've already started. This is it. Liz Scully and I have been giggling before we even get this podcast on the air. So welcome everybody who's listening. I am so happy. You don't know who I am. Maybe you do. Jill Tiny, founder of Collaboration Global and the podcast Being Human, Hidden Depths. Thank you for coming to listen to us today. I cannot believe I'm going to talk to one of my favorite people at the moment. She has come into our community, and it's just kind of the energy that you probably feel coming through the screen or through the sound waves. She's a woman after my own heart. So Liz, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm kind of giddy to be here. Thank you.
Giddy. I think we're going to be girls together. It's going to be such fun, as Miranda would say. So first and foremost, as I ask most of our guests, Collaboration Global, you've recently joined. It's all a bit weird and wonderful for you at the moment. The reality hasn't set in. There's some action to be taken. This is one of your first actions as being on the podcast. What drew you? What kind of got you into the fold, would you say?
Well, you and I met at another event, and we obviously just were the same type of people, which I think it's so important to be in a room full of people that are similar to you. And when you started talking about your community and how honest it was and open and welcoming, I thought that is a room I need to be in. And it helped that I had recently been in some rooms that were lovely, nice people, but not my people. Yeah. So I kind of felt it was it almost felt sort of the right moment. I shall walk away from these places where I feel like a bit of a lemon and move into a place where I feel embraced. And it has been delightful.
Oh, thank you. So far, so good. So happy. It's true though, isn't it? I mean, I still do a little bit of networking, not too much, because I've kind of done my time. But even when I go, somebody invites me to speak at a networking event or something, which is delightful, I kind of get in the room and Zoom room, real room, and you feel the energy, don't you? And you kind of feel like, are these my people? And then sometimes they'll talk about things and like, oh, you're not really. And part of me just doesn't want to persuade anyone to be part of Collaboration Global, because it's like, if you feel the energy and you feel the buzz and the time is right, let's rock and roll. Let's not have a conversation about it. It's a heart thing. We always used to say in the early days, if you're having to use logic to choose whether you want to join, don't do it. But if your heart is going, oh, I want to be part of this, then it's a given. And that's generally where we go. So I think you and I, if we'd gone to school together, we would have been besties, because it's that kind of energy and the giggles. And
all the time for giggling at the back, for sure.
Being naughty. And getting into trouble, no doubt. So it's fantastic to have you here. So looking at, doing a little stalk like I do, don't have to stalk very far. In the back behind you, it's got Evil Coach, which I absolutely love. That might put some people off. And then you find out that you actually are sort of majoring in masterminds. So immediately I've got this vision of you in your with a white cat on your lap, having a mastermind because you're an evil coach. Where did that spring from? Brilliant, by the way, but where did it spring from?
Well, they're two different businesses. So my main business is about masterminds, but Evil Coach is because I've spent the last probably 10, 15 years working with entrepreneurs, and I've noticed this strange similarity between the entrepreneurial community and this other community that I'm part of, which is the kink BDSM world. Now, you would not think there would be similarities between that at all. But it turns out that there are huge similarities. And once I started looking at the way when people join either community, they get all excited. Think about a new entrepreneur online. I'm going to do all the webinars. I'm going to do all the things. They get all excited. No clue what they're doing. Yeah. Strangely similar to when people first involve themselves in the naughtier side of sex. And thus I started seeing these similarities. Now, Evil Coach is not in any way salacious, but obviously we imagine BDSM, kink, that there's that whole kind of leather and straps and things, none of which is actually the way most people do it, I have to say. So there's nothing salacious about Evil Coach. It is just a way to look at a very boring topic the way it's normally taught, which is strategy, my true love. Most people look at that and think, oh, that sounds dull. Also sounds like something someone else should have. That's not me. Whereas I find, and I'm sure you agree, when people are laughing and they're interested, and in my case, tittering about smutty jokes, they are going to be much more engaged and much more together. And so I'd already spotted this side of things. And then I discovered the evilcoach.com domain was available. Now, as an entrepreneur, that is super exciting. So yes, so that's why I'm the Evil Coach.
It just kind of, it's timing, isn't it? All the time when these things happen, it's like, okay, the universe is telling me this, I'm just going to nab that little spot. I really like that way your brain works. It's like there's the norm of what normally goes on, and people do look at coaching and it's like, oh yes, I really need to have an accountant, and I really should have a conversation with the bank manager, and I possibly need a business coach. And it's like, shoot me now. Exactly as you say. And yet if you put it with any other community, it's like when you first join and it's a bit new and you're not really sure what you're doing, it's got to be fun, hasn't it? I mean, you've got to have a giggle.
Exactly. And also I think it, like, you obviously you need that, you need to speak to the bank and the account, all of that needs to happen, but it doesn't need to be the only thing you do. There's lots of like fun and excitement when we start our businesses. There's that sort of delight. What's it going to be? It's full of possibility. I'm going to change the world. And admittedly, there are times in the ensuing years where you think, what am I doing? This again?
Yeah.
And having something that is going to keep you moving and giggling on those, wet Tuesdays when everything is just a little bit grey. This again, I did this yesterday. Good Lord. Just something that's going to carry you through.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Year one, I found, starting my first business, it was like, woohoo, let's do this. And you had no idea of what's ahead. And year two, you've got an idea of what's ahead. And it's like, no, okay, second year, most businesses fail in the first year, and we're in year two and we can keep doing this. And then year three, it's like, I thought it would be better than this. This is really quite difficult. Do I want to go back to where I was and be employed? And you like try not to go down that road until you get momentum, until you do it. And of course, if you haven't started your journey at the beginning with a strategy, it's like if Yogi Berra, a famous American, once said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll wind up someplace else.
Exactly.
And so for you, when did you realize that your genius, your thing was around strategy, and that's how your brain works, and you probably see it in a different way to a lot of people?
That is not something I thought about, because if you'd asked me 20 years ago instead of 10 years ago, I would never have said I was a strategist. I worked in film, I worked in visual effects, I worked with big teams of geeky boys sitting in the dark, T-Rex typing away. And it was lovely. I was there to make beautiful pictures and to make gorgeous color and hyper real stuff. But what the film industry taught me was, because things go horribly wrong in film all the time.
Wow.
And what we are always doing is correcting, course correcting. Okay, so things are blown up. Actually, literally, what do we do about that? Okay, so the editor and the director aren't speaking to each other. How do we work around that? So that continual feeling of, okay, what's next? And you are never judged on things going wrong. You're judged on how you deal with things going wrong. So when I moved into the entrepreneurial world, all of these skills, massive budgets, driven individuals who want to make something beautiful, strategy that is changing constantly. It was such a surprise when I met entrepreneurs that were like, so this terrible thing happened. And I'm like, excellent, what's your plan? I'm like, I don't have a plan. And I'm like, oh, hang on, you need a plan. And that's when I realized that I had been trained from these 20 years in film, that strategy was built into us. But it's also, so it becomes second nature. I think it's also something you have a delight in, but everybody needs the basis of that. And everybody in film has that. Oh, what do we do now? Here's the new plan.
That's interesting, because I love transferable skills. It's fascinating, isn't it, when you realize that what you were good at maybe when you were 8 years of age, and then you get taught about something at a different age, and then you just amalgamate them all together, and all of a sudden you've got this, hey, this is my unique thing, this is what I'm brilliant at, and I can rock this so that everyone else can actually get the benefit from my learning experience. Have you ever had a blow up for you in your business where you've gone, I mean, tell us a story if you have. I love the stories of like, it all went wrong and then I made it out at the other end and it was a happy ending.
Pretty much any film project I worked on was just awful. There was a time when we did this is a ridiculous ad. This is a film time. We were shooting an ad that it was some kind, I can't even remember the product. It was some kind of baby soft thing. And the footage that we were supposed to be shooting was a baby inside a beautiful chrysanthemum opening up, which means you have to, obviously, we don't have giant sized flowers. That was all the CG side, the computer graphics side that I was working on, and I ran a department that was doing that. So they went and shot the baby on a big scary motion control machine, which means it's like a robot arm that does. So the kid didn't like this. It was terrified by this big thing coming, and also it's a baby, so they were worried it would sort of wander off, so they velcroed it to the to the top of the camera thing, and then they moved it in. So the baby's crying. It's bright red, not good. But okay, they keep shooting. The mother's there. They have interchangeable triplets that they can swap out and get multiple takes. Lovely. Meanwhile, cross town, I'm making a chrysanthemum, which we open. And chrysanthemums are quite busy flowers. They have lots of little petals. So the director shows up from Argentina. And he walks in and I start showing him the flower. And he's like, this is lovely. Why are you showing it to? I was like, this is a chrysanthemum. And he said, that's not the way they look in Argentina.
Oh.
And the whole room was like,
no.
What? So I phone the Royal Chrysanthemum Society. True thing, I promise. And apparently there are 456 varieties of
Go away. Oh, my goodness.
So we should have done some research. God damn it.
Plan B. What's the strategy here, people?
Exactly. And then the rest of the show just went wrong in every area it could, like everything. But the delightful thing was the client was sat next to me all the way through this, and I didn't pretend it was going well. We were nice, we were polite, but we didn't cover it up. It wasn't everything's fine, and then we had to break the horrible news to him. He was with us every step of the way, and I genuinely believe that most people are very kind if you give them the opportunity and when they know that it's the time to be kind. So he and I had a joke that you don't have to worry till I offer you a beer. At that point, it's all gone wrong. So we're 3 weeks in, cameras have corrupted, babies have been reshot. It's just horrendous. The correct flower has been achieved. Everything should be just about okay. And then a horrendous technical problem happens. At which point I walked up to him and said, so would you like a beer? And he was like, oh no. What are we going to do? And I was like, well, you know what? I don't actually know right now, but you drink your beer, see that door through there. I'm going to go through that door and you might hear very distant screaming. When I come back in 35 minutes, everything's going to be fine. I will have a plan. Or as I like to think, a strategy. And that's exactly what happened. Admittedly, the CEO of the company walked past me while I was rocking backwards and forwards in the hall, weeping. And he's like, are you all right? I'm like, I'm just about to tell the client what we're going to do. Now, the moral of the story is, A, we got that advert out, and it did look every bit as cheesy as it sounds like it would, but it was finished.
It got done.
And B, the CEO hired me, not because that I had managed the job well without mistakes, but because he saw how I managed the client, he saw how we always had a strategy, he saw how the team pulled together. And that's why making mistakes it's not, you can't avoid it. It's going to happen. What are you going to do when it happens? Oh,
that's so true. I love that. It's that kind of, we've always, in other companies that I've got, it's always been, if a delivery hasn't been delivered, or it's what you do when it all goes wrong, and being able to glide like a swan and paddle like crazy underneath and bring it all together. And it's about being human, isn't it? And being authentic and not putting on that, hey, everything's fine kind of smile, and when it isn't, when it's all crashing down around your ears, there's an element of not worrying people unnecessarily. Go, no, it's okay, I'll sort that out, it's a problem. But at the same time, is being truthful and being genuine in that relationship. And that's, I always liken it to a collaboration. If you're doing a collaboration and you can't have a bad day, then it's not a great collaboration, and it will probably crack up at some point. But if you can walk in and go, look, this has happened and that's happened, I'm not in a headspace for this today, can I just do this bit and I'll be back on track tomorrow? Because, and it's like having that understanding and that compassion for when things do go wrong, knowing that the people in the team have got your back and,
Exactly.
and are there for you.
We can only be human. There's no other way to do it. Like you say, perfection, it doesn't help anybody really.
No, perfection doesn't exist, and we're all trying to get it, and it's just give up, doesn't exist at all. But pretty good, you know, near well, damn it, the same, then you're on the right track. So strategy with a client or anyone in business, you know, if they haven't got a strategy at this point and they're sitting here thinking, flipping heck, how much difference would that make to my company? What would you say that, you know, why would you have play devil's advocate with me, Liz? Why would you have a strategy?
Well, this is a question I have to answer quite a lot, because for obvious reasons, people are like, I know what I'm doing. I'm running a business. I have a plan. It's like, but do you though? Do you really have a plan? Do you just have the things that you've been doing for a while and the new thing you'd like to try? That's not really a strategy. A strategy is you're very clear on your end goals, and you are working backwards from there to produce all the steps for that. Now, for me, what I love to help clients with is that most of us, when we're running a business, we're doing far too much. We're doing a million things at once. And now we've got all the socials and the visibility and outreach and sales. There's so much going on. So a strategy can help you streamline that process and make each step so it's more effective. So if you're on a podcast, for instance, you can make sure that you are creating a closer bond with somebody, obviously, as you and I already are. But you can also use that on your socials. You can make sure your message is out there. You can clarify your message. So like 1 hour can do 4 or 5 things in your business. And then how you use that afterwards can also do a bunch of things. So when you are clear on what you're trying to do, you can do less, but each part of it is more effective. And who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want to do less? I mean, that's the whole point of a business. You come away from the employed space where you feel like you're running around chasing your tail, and you think, if I was in my business, I'd do it so much differently. And then you're running around chasing your tail. So the idea of being able to do less because you have a strategy. One thing people get wrong along the way, strategy and process. What would you say? How would you define them as different?
Ooh, interesting. So a strategy is what you're doing overall. It's the through line. Right. And the process is the how you do it, I would say. So if you are imagining folding t-shirts, I don't know what kind of job this would be, but say you are folding t-shirts, that is your business. And the process you use to fold the t-shirts is exactly your mechanism and your process. Why are you standing in a room folding t-shirts? That would be your strategy.
Right. So the why in that space is different to the why that we've all talked about around purpose.
Yes, completely. Yes.
Which is the umbrella.
Defining moment. Yes, that's more kind of what are you going to do once you have a room full of thousands of folded t-shirts? Because there surely is a reason you're doing it. And if there isn't, then good Lord, you need a strategist.
Nice one. That was just slid very nicely in there. Thank you. I love it. So we're okay. We've got our strategy sorted now. So that was what you say, one business. And obviously that comes via Evil Coach. What's your strap line for that, by the way? I can't quite read it on your screen.
Whip your business into shape.
Oh, of course.
The rest of it that isn't on the sign. So whip your business into shape, dominate the market, and submit to your clients.
Oh, so good. So good. And you don't have to be part of that community of BDSM in order to enjoy working with
There's nothing salacious. Like the things we have talked about today is as salacious as it gets. It's just if you like to learn with a side order of double entendre, single entendre in some cases, but smut of some sort. Then
you like the banter. You like to have some banter. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The other business, which I've always been fascinated with, and I think that's where we came into this conversation when we first met, was around the storytelling and how you identify yourself. And you identified yourselves as a person that creates masterminds, or helps people to create their masterminds. How did that come about?
So again, back to my film day. So film is super collaborative. And it is not at all unknown for the management to open a door, throw in 6 technical people and say, win us an award, and then lock you in there for about 9 months.
Oh my goodness.
Assuming that you will come out with something beautiful. Now, the part of the film industry I worked in, which was visual effects, which is very complicated and techie and mathematics, and very beautiful and very arty. So where art and maths meet, as we know, is also where some of the spectrum disorders live. People that are perhaps not quite as happy with eye contact or with chatting away to people. But that was my job, to work with delightful, incredibly talented people who had a lot to do and frankly were paid to be right, which didn't make anything any easier. But those lovely humans, my job was to build departments and to build teams and to make sure that everyone got on really well. So I lived in this delightful, collaborative, wonderful space. And then I left to become a coach. I'd heard these things about weekends. I want one. I lived it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was just me on my own. And it was horrible. Because much as I like my own company, running a business is just hard. Particularly the first couple of years, when I don't know about anyone else, but I had no idea what I was doing. I was just sort of scrabbling at the walls most of the time. And I'd heard about masterminds. And I was living in India at the moment because I just finished working at DreamWorks at that point. So I still liked living in India, so I carried on. So I imported the idea of masterminds to India. Being a type A personality, I'll just run a business doing this. I knew nothing. Listeners, I was clueless. But what I got from that first group was all this wonderful support and people that can reflect back to you in a way that, you know, you can't read the label inside the jar. We do our best. We think we're moving in a straight line, where instead we're actually hard up against something, or I'm going to do this one thing, I'm moving ahead, and then quietly you've just gone offside somewhere. Your mastermind group, your group of supporters are going to gently point that out and help reorientate you. So for me, it felt like a homecoming.
Right.
Delightful.
It's a really good, you've got so many wonderful phrases, turn of phrase in all of that. Understanding when they say a group of supporters being with you. I just love that idea that, as you say, when I first started, I had my husband with our first business, but then our business coach told me that I should be a business coach. Thank you very much. And it did feel like I was a square peg in a square hole. It was perfect. But again, you're on your own, and I'm not a lonesome person. So it's very difficult to because there's too much choice out there. And you listen to this person, and this is how you do your marketing. And you listen to that person. No, this is the new way to do marketing. And you do that, talk to somebody else. Oh, do the traditional way, because that's always worked well. So that carries on. And you're like, what do I do? What do I do? And it was that undecided, not sure, try everything, work too long hours, work-life balance. What, excuse me, what does that happen? Yeah. And it's just so confusing in the early days. And even 5-10 years down the line, when you get into that space of, yes, this is how I get clients, this is my mechanism, I turn that tap on and this works. And then before you know it, it's a little pandemic and everything's just up in the air. And you're like, it doesn't work anymore. I'm turning my tap on, nothing's coming out the other end. And you've got to reinvent your wheel. One, if you haven't got a strategy in the first place, you're going to be struggling. But two, having that support mechanism around you where you can bounce ideas. I remember with one mastermind that I'm a member of, I was talking about pricing and how I go. And I think you've already had a go at me about this as well. But and I was saying, these are my prices. And it's like, woof, the next 2 hours was all about Jill. It's like, but the reason why is that they were all going, this is what we think you should do. And then they kind of went, why am I not doing that myself then? I should really do that too. Because we all can see each other's pain, that we've been there and we've solved it, or we're going through it, or we're just about to be in that space. So it's a very, as you say, a collaborative space to hang out. So for people that are listening to this and you're on your own at the moment, either find a great community like Collaboration Global that just want to, you know, hang out and help you, but also be part of a wonderful mastermind for your own sake, to just kind of go, I'm not on my own, and other people are, literally everybody else, but other people are struggling in the same way that I am and don't know which button to press and where to go and what software to use. And from every element of your business, there are choices to be made from an empowered space, not from a space of you should do this and you should do that, because then we're just lambs to the slaughter to a certain extent. But when you're coming from an empowered space, hang on a minute, I'm going to choose, I'm empowered. And then because you're making that choice, you're damn well going to make it work, you know, and it might not be the best choice that you choose to do, but because you've made that decision, that choice, I prefer to use the word choice rather than decision, because decision is like one, that's it, take it or leave it. But a choice is like, right, I'm choosing this and I'm going to choose it for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, and see how it goes. But you're behind your own empowered choice. So you're going to damn well work it. It's the same when you coach with anybody. If you tell people what to do, they're like, okay. But if you help them to unpack what they are going to choose to do, and then they choose that thing, and you're sitting there going, chosen the right thing, and they go off and it's great. Or they might go, I think I'll do that. And you're like, okay, let's unpack that and see if that's going to be a great choice for you. But it's giving them the choice, which gives them that freedom, which is what everybody wants when they start their own business, isn't it?
Exactly. I think of coaching as we sort of lay out the buffet and we guide people to the area they might be interested in. So come away from the desserts. Maybe you want to start with a salad. Maybe you don't want to start with a salad. Start with something, maybe a smaller portion. Maybe away from the desserts again. Yeah. Yes, no, not the potato salad, but lettuce be nice right now. So but of course it's their choice what they get. Now, again, this is how a mastermind, which is a small group of people that you see really regularly, those people, they can be helping you see different sides of the same thing. Because we all know that if you go to the buffet and you're like, I'm going straight for the profiteroles, and everyone else is like, do you not want a starter? Oh yes, maybe I do. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do just want to eat 3 plates of profiteroles, but you're going to do it in front of a group of people, and they will very nicely, very kindly judge you.
Yeah. Yeah. And their heart is in the right place. They will be like nudging you. Yeah. I mean, there is a story I've told many, many times about a member of our community who was quite okay about not talking to his dad. And bit by bit, people were nudging him, going, go on, pick the phone up, ring your father, you know, and it all came out like a very happy ending in the end. And it is having those people around you that are brave enough to go, really? Do you want to do that? You sure? Definitely sure? And you're like, oh, okay, if she's asked me 3 times, maybe I shouldn't be sure. Let me explore that. And I always used to get caught. I had a lovely VA, and every time I'd be like, we need to use this bit of software, we need to. She's like, bright shiny objects, Jill, stop it. That's all she had to say to me. I was like, okay.
Exactly. I always feel like, not on my watch, Missy. You don't want to.
The other phrase she used to use is like, as below your pay grade, stop it. Okay, you've got to delegate, get somebody else to do it. All right, okay. And I love that kind of direct, because I don't know about you, but I'm a people pleaser, and it's like I'm trying to keep everyone happy. It's like juggling balls, and you can't keep everyone happy, basically. And you've got to, again, go back to the strategy and see what your whole plan is going forward. I like this thing, strategy. It's interesting how I see it, have seen it in the past. I've always known about it. I've generally had a strategy, mostly in my head, not always written down. But it's been along the lines of cash flow, bank accounts, accountants, tax returns, and it's just been a strategy. It's like a mathematical thing, as you were saying before, where I'm more of a visual, arty, creative, and the two didn't actually meet. Where if you realize that they go hand in hand, you kind of accept it in a better way and see it in a different light.
Exactly. And also, I think one of the things I do with clients is help them see, like, sort of pick through social media. We all know that we have to have some form of visibility, because unless you happen to work on the, like be on the, have a bricks and mortar place on the high streets. Even then, you're going to need visibility as well. So pretty much everyone needs visibility. But some people feel they have to write blogs, or they've got to do videos, they've got to do audio. And one of the things I help clients choose is, well, like audio, if you hate speaking, that's not going to work. Like proper speaking on a stage type speaking, like if you cannot bear to be in a room with more than 3 people, that's not for you. And if you love to write. So once you've made those kind of choices about what kind of person am I, what's going to suit me, then everything else becomes easier. All the decisions about what sort of marketing to do. Yes, there's obviously stuff for your industry and how other people view, but you can also layer it against the type of work you enjoy and the type of person you are. When I worked in film, I do a lot of video. I'm dyslexic. I do not do a lot of blogging. And when I do a lot of spell checking through a variety of different people, because I can do it. And I like to think I write quite well, but it takes me so much longer. And I think of it like the nap on velvet. You want to go the way that is all lovely and smooth and delightful and looks really beautiful, as opposed to the lumpy way, which is in the opposite direction. So a strategy can help you choose where to spend your money, where to spend your time, because you've got that lovely big arc. And I do think it's money, time, creativity, what makes you happy. It's all of those things woven together.
I like that velvet image. That's really nice. Going with the nap, definitely. I can see you in a big cloak. Actually, that was
like cloak, please.
Did you talking about dyslexia? Are you a huge fan now of ChatGPT? Does that make your life easier?
No, God, I can't stand it. I mean, no, that would not be my first choice. Actually, no, there's nothing wrong with ChatGPT. Obviously, it's very powerful. It do all sorts of things, but it's also, for me, it's a giant bland machine.
Yes,
it takes everything that's out there and spits out something average. That's its job.
Yeah, that's such. I was very what's the word? It was a blinding flash of the obvious to me when our guest speaker at our meeting this month, Greg Moyer, put up an image of all the different cars that had been created by AI, and then the houses that had been created by AI. And it's like, oh, we're going to be in this homogenized society that all looks the same. And he said he'd spotted the cars on the road the same. And now he said it, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they're all horrible, aren't they? I don't like these kind of square things with a wheel on each corner that run around. Where if you look at the 70s, each car had a character, didn't it? It was like,
it was also, just side note, a death trap. So there is a certain element of homogeneity we need. Airbags,
all right.
killing people. But no, I absolutely take your point. And in film, a lot of the code we've used for years has had AI built into it. Yeah. And AI is just a bunch of decisions, a yes and a no, and how it fits together. If this, then that. And you see it in the way computer graphic oceans and spray and all the beautiful effects we see. And that work used to be a lot slower and a lot more difficult and take more people. So it streamlines that. It's not going to go away, but the creativity doesn't go away, even if some of the jobs change. And I think that's the important thing. And for me in writing, I have tried saying, this is my idea, write me a blog post. And it's just not very good.
I can imagine you'd be able to use something like Otter AI and spiel what you want to say, and then ChatGPT puts it into sentences and takes out the expletives. I don't know. Oh, we've got a little cough going on. Okay.
Sorry, it's the pollen in the air.
It's that time of year, yeah.
One of the things that I've used ChatGPT for is to take something I've written and make it either shorter or longer or more conversational. I think that stuff it's very good at. So tweaking, augmenting what we've already got. Yes. But things like that, for me, I produce content and I sell and I talk about stuff and I convince clients with story. And ChatGPT is not full of story. And if it is, it's going to be bland story or someone else's story. Yeah. That's not going to be very helpful.
I was also shocked the other day that somebody said she put herself into ChatGPT to see what was regurgitated, and it had made up a racial abuse slur about her. So because I think she's Indian, I'm not sure, but because it made this assumption that everyone that's Indian has probably had some race attack at them. She said, nothing, she said, as far as I'm aware, nothing's happened that I've ever written about or it's been told about me. She said, I've never thought about it. She said, obviously things have happened, you know, by the by. She said, but it lied. And looking at it, she said, that never happened. It's just made it up. So it is a worry when things go to that space where it's learning from us to not be truthful all the time. And like you say, this goes back a long, long time. So back to Brexit and how it was creating adverts and things that just were not true. So watch this space. I think it is going to be something that we can harness that could be useful, but also something we have to be very aware of. Like it can impersonate our voices now. It can scrape all of our voices. Now I say now, this has probably been around for quite a few years. I remember a TV program probably 10 years ago in America. Now they always get things that 10 years before us anyway. And somebody was in court and they had a recording of this woman speaking as evidence in a court case. This was a fictional drama. But the thing is now that could be a possibility because they can imitate our voices. Which is why
it is scary, it is worrying, but then any technology has a scary element to it. There's no way around it. But I don't think it's going to destroy the world, which there are a lot of people running about with their hair on fire. And it's worrying. If you have a low-level service job that can be replaced by a robot, yes, be worried.
Yeah.
But I think we'll adapt. I've seen it time and again within the industry, within film, that things would come, people would be replaced by something and they would pop up somewhere else doing something else.
Yeah. Did you see that statement that the scientists put out? And that to me makes a lot of sense because we've been here before when they discovered the hydrogen bomb. And it's like, what are we going to do? We are working our way to create something that could destroy the planet. We have to have something in place. And I think they're just being wary and cautious that potentially this could go to the nth degree and we could see iRobot happening. You know, and so they're just making it's precautionary, isn't it?
Exactly. Think about the worst case phenomena and then we can scale back from there.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So what do you do for funsies? What's your go-to hobby?
I read. Well, obviously I see a lot of films as well, like kind of goes without saying, but I read a lot. We talked about this. I read about 600 books a year.
What?
Oh, I know.
Can you read fast then? I mean, presumably.
I read with my ears. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I went blind for a couple of years.
No, I didn't. No, tell me the story.
I got an ear infection. I was working too hard. This is a common problem in my life. I'd done a lot of speaking and got a cold and got an ear infection. And it turns out if you have an ear infection long enough, so I was falling over every 20 minutes. Like it was like being wildly drunk for about 6 months. It's horrible.
Yeah.
0 stars. Do not try. It was just not pleasant. So when you are that dizzy for that long, your brain gets very confused. And in my case, my brain just stopped focusing on things more than a meter away. And it couldn't do detailed stuff. So reading with my eyes, as most of us do, just completely disappeared. So it was about 2.5 years. And I just moved over. So the first 3 months was just vile, horrible. I had to sit totally still for 8 to 10 hours a day. And any movement I did made me throw up or fall over, or both, which I absolutely cannot recommend. That is a very unpleasant result.
Poor thing.
So I'm still running my business during all of this. It was like a lovely strategy, kids. I actually made more money that period than before. But that's because I'd already done all the work beforehand. But what I did with that time is I started listening to audiobooks. And as we've all learned with Zoom, say, like when you get used to something, it stops feeling not even, I mean, like you and I, it feels like we are sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
With me and audiobooks, after about 3 months of admittedly 8 hours a day solidly for 3 months, after that time, it doesn't feel at all different between reading with my eyes and reading with my ears, except I can now read books at 2.5 speed, maybe 3. So I whiz through them. Marvelous.
Well, you need to meet one of our newest members, Howard. I've forgotten his surname. He's so new. I've forgotten his surname. He's in the Guinness World of Records for speed learning.
Oh, really?
And he reads books like they're going to be going out of fashion. So yeah, I did not know that about you, and I love that fact. So what? Come on then, quick one. What's one of your favorite books recently that you've gone, oh, that was brilliant?
So I read a book about, you're going to ask me the name of this, I can tell. I will. I read a book by, oh, God damn it. So I read this wonderful book called Street Life by Leaf somebody or other, who is a historian. Now, it's a big book. It's somewhat rambling, but thanks to the joy of audiobooks, you can zip through it very quickly. And his basic thesis is that history isn't just about what happened and who it happened to and why. It's a lot to do with place as well. So we wouldn't have the Russian Revolution if the Russian welders weren't spending their time at a particular football stadium on the regular. So they were meeting, they were spending time together. We wouldn't have had the Weimar Republic if they hadn't been hanging out in the same set of bars. And it changed absolutely the way I view the world. You know, like every few years you hit a book that nothing is the same afterwards.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, I love that. It's like there are certain billionaires out today, and they've pinpointed time and place for when that was the pivotal time. And had they not been around at that time in that place, then it wouldn't have all kicked off and they wouldn't be who they are today. Interesting. And we'll go, oh, it's because they're so clever. Yeah, not always.
Right time, right place. Very important.
Exactly. Oh, I love that you read. That's absolutely, yeah. Harry Potter. Did you do Harry Potter?
I did. Actually, that's one of the few made in London that I didn't work on. The entire series. It's almost impossible to have worked in visual effects in London for those 10 years and not worked on it.
Oh, what a shame. Wow. Yeah, it's an era, wasn't it? I do remember.
Yes, it paid a lot of people's mortgages for a long time.
I'll bet. Yeah, good point. So one of the questions I like to ask people is, and I say that I have stolen this from Simon Sinek, so if he wants to tell me off, and please do. But if you listen to a little bit of optimism, he generally asks this question for a reason, and I'll tell you the reason in a minute. When you were younger, say about 7 or 8, what was the thing that you did that brought you most joy? Can you remember some of the happiest times? What were you doing when you were like that? That memory is a great joy. Playing
with colour and light.
Really?
Actually, my very first memory is lying in my cot, looking at the light coming through. We had I can't call it a stained glass window, but a window with colour in it.
Yes.
And I remember trying to grab the beams of light. And of course, I worked in lighting, making pretty colours. That's all I did for 20 years.
So was it something that you felt that that's what you were destined to do, or did you do the job and look back and go, yeah, that makes sense, that's what I was going to end up doing?
I went to art school for quite a long time, and I like colour, and I still think that all the work I do in strategy now is immensely creative and full of slotting beautiful things together so it smooths. So I think it's like a continuity with all of that stuff. It's just not quite as colour based as it used to be.
Have you ever come across synesthesia?
I have. I used to have a bassist flatmate who saw colours.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So one of our members would take notes in colour, and you just see this page of colour, and then she would tell you what the notes were of what she'd just been listening to through the colours. Also, she could hear colours as well. So if she saw a rainbow, she'd say, oh, that sounds so beautiful. And she could describe the noise that she was hearing because of what she was seeing. It blows my mind, this kind of, and you hear it more and more now as well, this affinity to this other sense, that we've got another sense going on. It's just theirs are probably finely tuned, and we've just not got around to tuning ours in yet. But
exactly. I do want to know what your early memory is and how that fits in. Tell me.
Yeah. I remember at the age of, well, there's two, but yeah, one that it kind of fits with where I am now is that when I was at nursery, and I always remember the children were playing, and I wanted, well, you two play together because you would really get on well together, and you come over, don't be on your own, come over and join us, we're playing over here. So it was like bringing people around and bringing people together. So I think that's always been part of my thing. I'd end up being the form, what do you call it, prefect kind of thing. I was, yeah. And I was in school, which was East End of London. I was very lucky that I was in the class full of the tough kids. So then I became part of their crowd, so I didn't get bullied. So I was all right. And we were always on form report every single month of every single year for those 5 years we were in school, from the age of 11 to 16. We had about 2 months, I think, where we weren't on form report because we were so naughty. And then one day the headmistress asked to see me and my friend, who I'm still in touch with now, to come down to the headmistress's office, and everyone else was so pleased. What have you done? You're going to get told off at last. It's about time. I can't believe you two goodies. And we went down going, oh my God, we're going to get told off. What's going to go? What have you done? I haven't done anything. What have you done? I haven't done anything. And got there, and she was giving us this congratulations, you've done so well, you've worked so hard despite all the distractions from your class. And so when we came out, we weren't pleased that she'd said that to us, which was lovely. We were like, oh shit, what are we going to say? We can't go back up there and tell them that we've got a congratulations, they'll kill us. We can't do that. So we had to make something up. And so yeah, we got caught. We were out on the roof or something, and we got caught for it. But so it's always been about people that are misunderstood, people that are different to me. I've been fascinated by, and bringing them together and bonding them together, I think. So throughout my school life, I've always done that. And it wasn't until probably about 10 years ago when I was at an event and I overheard somebody talking about me, and you kind of go, what are they saying? And they said, oh yeah, if you want anyone to connect you up, ask Jill Tiny, she knows a lot of people, she'll connect you up with some great people. And I'm like, is that what I do then? And I hadn't realized at that point, because I thought everybody did that. And you do it naturally, quite easily.
That's why we get on.
Probably, but not everybody can. And I've had instances where people have sat next to each other in the same meeting for months and months, and I said, well, you two are working together, aren't you? And they're like, no, do totally different things. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Explained it all. They got together, helped them with the email marketing and stuff that they were doing. And after about 3 months, one of them said, could you stop sending out the emails? I've got too much work. I can't cope. I will turn the tap on in about 6 months' time. So it worked very well. It's just that, and I can't get over, people just don't spot what's in front of their eyes. But I guess it's that kind of innate thing that we've all got. So what's your innate, I mean, obviously, you've worked out the skill sets that you've acquired a long time, but what's your innate
I do like connecting people. It's really nice when people get on. It's just lovely when you think you need that and you need that and you're going to be besties. So I like that connection stuff. But I really like when it's normally clients, because as you know, we go into the job that allows us to do the thing we love the most. So with them, they come in and go, oh, I've got too much on, I'm doing all this stuff. I love that. 90 minutes later, they leave with but it feels so simple. Why wasn't I doing this all along?
Yeah. It's when you give them that little penny dropping moment and they're like, oh, yeah, I get it now. Yes. Best feeling in the world.
I feel like it's unraveling the kind of knotted string. So it's, and now you just need to do these 3 things. Won't that feel nice?
So have you written a book about all of this?
I'm in the process of writing a book about this, actually. Did you know that? How cunning. It's coming early next year, I think, so 2024. It is called Think Like a Film Crew, and it is all the fabulous things I learned in film that is helpful for entrepreneurs and people running businesses now, and a lot of just daft stories.
I love it. You're very good at daft stories.
My whole life. Thank you very much. That's my life's work.
This is the thing, though, isn't it? If you don't start writing it all down, then there are people that are interested in what you do, and they'll follow you for a little bit, but they might kind of fall off the edge. But if you've got a book and they go, look, go read that, do some of it, do all of it, do yourself a favor. And then when they've finished reading it, they're like, oh, I need some help with this. And then, and it is quite simple, and they can my first book was all about, I had a lot of male clients, and I do apologize to my male clients who used to say, I said, look, there's a book I want you to read. Do you do reading? Do you do the reading? No. Is it on audio? Is it got, I said, look, this has got pictures in it. It's fine. So I wrote them a book especially, and I said, all you've got to do is 12 chapters. I'm not asking you to read it immediately. Read 1 chapter a month, but do the 3 things it says at the end of every chapter. And at the end of the year, you're going to have a very different business. And it was a tool that I could use, so I didn't have to keep saying the same things over and over again. It worked like a dream, absolutely worked like a dream. So it's that having that tool that you can give people that, look, I can sit down and tell you everything now, but you've got to pay me for that, or you can have this and go and look at it, and if you like it, come back and we'll work something out and we'll work together. It's exactly
one of my clients who does PR for books. She said, stop thinking of it as a book and start thinking of it as a very expensive calling card. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking of it.
And you can give it away. Daniel Priestley, he's great. Every time he does an event, he gives away loads of books because he knows they're going to read it, and he knows that they're going to love it, and he knows they're going to come back for more. So it's a nice marketing arm of your business.
Are your books on audio?
Oh, sorry, no. It's one of those things that I have meant to do and just haven't got around to. I did record a whole chapter once, and it took me about 3 hours because the guy doing the recording was very good and very precise. And it's like, do that sentence again. Could you do those 2 words again? Could you just do that? So I thought the idea of doing a whole book freaked the life out of me. But yes, I will probably get to it at some point. But you're very true. You have
a lovely voice as well. It would be pleasant to have you in my ears, so to speak.
Darling. Well, you can listen to the podcast. That will keep you going for a little while.
Indeed.
Until I get that book sorted. Thank you. Yes, I'll put it on my list. Where does that go in my strategy?
Well, that would go on reaching new people, dealing with a whole sector of disadvantaged people who can't read with their eyes. It gives you endless social content, and you can use it for getting on bigger stages, impressing more people. It's pulling people towards you, endlessly helpful.
Yes, there you go. So good job you're writing yours now. I can't wait to read that in the new year. Big kind of launch party. So we can
absolutely
hang out. Excellent. So one thing I haven't asked you about yet, sorry, I was looking, like I do, a little bit of stalking, and you're the founder of the International Certificate Program. Is that right? The International Mastermind.
Yes, it's a form of masterminding. So the advanced masterminder, but because I encourage people to run masterminds, they are not just fun to be in, but they are fabulously fun to run, because you get to hang out with smart people and help them look smarter and more effective all day, every day. And I have to say, they're quite lucrative as well. So they're fun, easy, once you've been trained, obviously. And the International Mastermind Certificate, the IMC, is part of that. So I've been training people probably for about 7 or 8 years. I've trained, I can't say hundreds, I think I've trained 100 people, maybe 200 people, but it's really nice. It's lovely.
Cool. It's good to know. If anyone wanted to get hold of you, Evil Coach, what's the easiest way to go about it?
Well, probably by Instagram. Actually, or you could just email me. I've made a special page for your listeners, for our listeners. So if you go to rethinkcentral.com, which is my main company, rethinkcentral.com/coglow, you'll find some stuff about masterminds. You can opt into my list if you so desire. You'll find my Instagram stuff. And if you just want to go straight to the smut, go straight to Instagram, where you'll find a fabulous strategy dressed up under very smutty titles. And that is under Obey Evil Coach.
I love the way your brain works. Do you get some strange people that get attracted to that? And you're thinking, actually, I don't want to work with you. Thank you.
I would have expected it. I really would have expected it. But no, a girl could dream, but no, not really. I do have people that want me to be, let's say, coach to their inner kinkster, and I'm like, no, this is business coaching. Thanks very much. I made a decision to not have anything to do with that. And in our FAQs on the sales page, it does actually say quite clearly, will we be doing BDSM? No. Zip it up. We're not interested. This is coaching, my friends, with a side of innuendo.
Yes, exactly. It's for those people that get your humor, and then you're going to have fun, aren't you? That's the whole point of getting together. You're going to have a giggle.
And doing branding, you want to divide people. Who wants to have a completely homogenous, loved by everybody brand?
Yeah, that would be me. No, I'm joking. And maybe I need to be more controversial in Collaboration Global. I'll have to work on that one. So I think for now, I always say for now, because I have a funny feeling that we've got much, much more to delve into and probably have to do part 2 in the not too distant future. But for now, I'm going to draw this to a close and tell people that if they want to get hold of Liz Scully, obviously that link that you've just given will be fantastic. Or if you want to meet her in the flesh, sort of online, come to a Collaboration Global session. You can find us on collaborationglobal.org and you can book on there, and it takes, or find us on Eventbrite or on LinkedIn. And you can come to one of our meetings, always the last Tuesday of the month. And Liz is usually there, and you can send her a little message and say hi and tell her that you've listened to this podcast. And hopefully you will listen and subscribe and like and share. That's the name of the game. So thank you so much, Liz, for being on the call today. It's been such fun, as I anticipated it would be. Hope your hay fever gets better soon. Any last words?
No, it's just been lovely. And I do hope listeners come and join us, because, more friends.
Exactly. We're all in this together, aren't we, this business malarkey? And if we can just shed a little bit more light for someone to go, okay, maybe now is the time to do a blooming strategy, then, or even take the one you've got and tweak it and make it better, or get hold of Liz and say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. She's the lady to help you. So thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Take care.